Hi everyone, welcome to another SoccerScanner video. And today's video we're going to have a look at the stats module. So this is obviously SoccerScanner is primarily based on a live score scanner, as you well know. But when I built SoccerScanner, one of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to bring in historical stats. Okay, so when you start to combine historical stats with live stats and with calculations as we've got here in the statistics, you start to get a much better impression of what's going to happen. So if you see a team that's very, very strong in the first half, but the stats tell you they don't score very often in the first half, you might want to leave that. Vice versa, you see a team that started really strongly and the stats then back that up, their historical stats, then that would be, something that you might go and look at. So the stats are there to help you and to guide you. Obviously, each game is different, right? So that's why we don't just work on stats. What we're doing is combining what the stats are telling us, the historical stats, with the live stats that we see on the screen. So before we go and have a look at the stats, just how do I calculate them? Okay, so each of the stats, what I do is I look at the game that has been played today and the league that that's in. Okay, so in the example I've got here, we've got Middlesbrough playing Leeds in the Championship. This is quite an old one because Leeds are now in the Premiership, but we're only taking into account Championship games. Okay, so that's really, really important to remember. We're only looking at that. And that's why quite often you won't see historical stats for cup games, for example, because the teams won't have played themselves in this year in the cup. Okay, we'll try and keep it current, try and keep it in this year's statistics. Also means you won't see anything from the start of the season because I take a minimum of 6 games where we get these stats. Okay, when we open the stats pages, you'll see there's head to head. So how many times have they played them in the Championship historically? Okay, and how many games fit into there, and we'll look at that more closely. So that's one set of stats. The rest of the set of stats is I give you an average, okay, and the average is the key. That's the thing that you will see on the live scanner when you add it. It is the average of these results below. Okay, so we've got home team last 10 games, right? So the results from Middlesbrough's last 10 home games. Okay, home and away games, last 10, the results from Middlesbrough's home and away games, and again in the Championship. And then the home team, last 5 home games, because obviously 10 is quite a way to go back. So what we try and do is go back 5 games, also go back 10 games. So it gives us a longer term view, but also have they turned the corner? Have they signed a striker? Has someone come back from injury? So that's where the 5 games comes in. And then you see exactly the same for the away team. Okay, so you've got the results of the Leeds last 10 games. You've got the results of last team home and away games and the last 5 games. And what I then do is I sum all of those up and I get an average. Okay, now I display all of these so you can see them. There's nothing hidden away here. But the key for me is this average. So what the average is doing is giving us a view long term, 10 games, home and away, and shorter term, just the last 5 games at home, as well as the last 10 away home games for the home team. So let's have a quick look at today's stats. It's a busy Saturday, so we're going to the stats page. Okay, we can go to tomorrow's stats, or you can go to the page I've just shown you how the stats are calculated. And then we have a number of different stats in here. We also have a summary page, which is quite interesting. But let's first of all click on over 2.5 goals. Okay, so if we click on over 2.5 goals, it'll just take a second to load. Now you might need your sunglasses for this bit because it is quite bright. Okay, so as we said, we have head to head. Okay, and how many games are considered. So let's just go to my leagues only. Let's get some good games. So here we're in the Australia A League. Wellington Phoenix played MacArthur. Okay, they've played each other head to head in this league 5 times. Okay, and they have an 80% chance in that time, a record, sorry, rather than chance of going over 2.5 goals. Okay, but the average based on the statistics is only 63%. Okay, so you can read into that what you want. I'm not a big fan of head to head, right? Because the team that's playing today is different to the team that played last year, that's different to the team that played last year. Okay, the average that we're working out, remember, we're using last 5 and 10 games. Okay, and then the individual columns are here. And then what I do is, for reference, is I put an average of over 3.5 goals, just so you can reference that first average and just make a bit more sense. Now, the beauty about this is we can actually click on any of these that we want. Okay, so if we click on average, we can sort by it. So suddenly we can see here that historically, young boys, 80% historically in the last 5 meetings between them, but the average calculated based on their last few games is 85%. So that looks like there's a good chance there of that going over 2.5 goals. Historically, it's good, and using the last 5 and 10 games, it's good. Okay, and again, you can see the average over 0.35 over there. So we can use that for any of the stats. We can search for particular games if we want. So we can Middlesbrough playing today. We are there. So Middlesbrough haven't played Oxford very often, but when they did play, it went over 2.5 goals. But based on their recent records, right, there's very, very little chance. 40%, not one that you'd bet on. An average 0.35 for reference, 23%. Okay. So this average here is what you see in the scanner. Okay. So when you go into the live score scanner, that's what you're seeing in there. If we look at something like over 0.5 first half goals, again, it takes a second to load because there's a lot of games on there. Again, let's do my leagues only. Okay, you can see it comes up in the same order. And you can see here there's an 83% chance of there being a first half goal in that game. Okay, again, nothing certain, right? It's just historical, and it's just giving you extra reference to work to when you're using the live score scanner. And again, we can click on average. So we can see here Sparta Rotterdam 6 times, right? There's been a first half goal, 95%, and the average of 0.15 in the whole game is 80%. So, that's one that you'd probably go and look at. But remember, the bookies are no mugs, right? If there's a 95% chance of a goal based on their last 5 and 10 games, the odds aren't going to be very good. But waiting to 20 minutes in could be completely different. Okay, so use these, as I say, you can go in and individually look at them. We can export them to Excel if you want them, but they do appear on the live source scanner. So if we go over to the scanner, we've got some games on at the moment. Okay, and what you can see, I don't have it on there at the moment. Let's go here. Okay, so we can add average 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, first half goal and second half goal. We can add all those statistics. You probably need a bigger screen to put them all on, but we can add them. So depending on your particular interest, I'm a particular fan of first half goals. I generally would have that on there, and I would have a good look at that. So you can use them for reference. So you can see here, for instance, second half goal, 85% chance of a second half goal in this game. It's currently 1-0. Chelsea have scored 37 minutes. First half goal was 70% chance. So again, the stats are starting to show their usefulness. So again, don't use these in isolation. Use them with all the rest of the live statistics you've got, but it just gives you a reference point to stick in the sand to say, if this game was 2-0, would we go and look at over 3.5? Well, historically, between the two teams, 23%, we probably wouldn't. Okay. You can also use these in your filters as well. So they are very, very useful. So you can add them just from the columns menu and then save them however you want to save it. But they are very, very useful. If you want to see how successful they are, obviously you can go into yesterday's results. And again, we can add them. Actually, they're already on for me. Okay, so we can go across to see them. If I can find the scroll bar. Let me just remove some columns. I've got two monitors, and one I'm using, one I'm not using. Okay, so we can have a look at that. And again, you can, because the way that these are not listed under leagues, you can sort by them. So you can see here, first half goal, 93% in this game here. And looks like we had 2 goals in the first half. Okay. Next game, unfortunately, 92%. We didn't get a goal. Third game, 90%. We got 2 goals again. 80%. 2 goals again. So you can start to see here that how useful these are, and you can use this as a reference to come back to help you try and work out what the best percentage is. You can see here there's a number of games over 80% for a first half goal, and you can see the vast number of those. There's a couple that don't, but the vast number of them do have a first half goal. Okay, so it's a reference. You can use it. You go back to the results. You can use it in the scanner. You can look at them separately in scanner in the stats module, and obviously you can also add them to your alerts as well. So they are very, very useful. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. If you've got any other videos that you'd like to see, because this was one that somebody requested, please just put a comment on below. And as always, if you can like these, and if you're not following me, please do, because I do a lot of these videos trying to show you how to get the most out of SoccerScanner. So thank you very much for watching.